Hello and welcome to SEGA News Bits. I'm your host George, and with me is Barry.
Hello.
You know, we only do these like very, so often, so please enjoy it, everybody, because today we're going to be talking about SEGA announcing the SEGA Astro City mini arcade with 36 games and a bunch of features that we're going to get into later on. But what do you think about this announcement just by looking at it on Twitter, the headlines, I guess?
Yeah, it shocked me because I woke up to this and this news was posted, at least in American time, at midnight or something like that.
Like 1 a.m. over here in the West Coast.
Yeah. And I know some other SEGA fan sites reporting on it too. They probably didn't have to deal with early morning hours, but how did this information break? Like, what happened? It was an early leak, right?
It was an early leak by Game Watch, a Japanese website where they do interviews. It was an interview with Sega Toys, which two people from Sega Toys that were making this, Satoshi Shinmakawa and Yuyuchi Oki. So these two people work at Sega Toys in Japan, and they did this interview. But the interview went up because they talk about assets and promotional videos that haven't been released yet, which we'll get into right now. I guess let's just get into it.
Yeah.
So first of all, when did this project start? According to the interview, it started in 2018. It was always planned for Sega's 60th anniversary and was independent from the Mega Drive Mini. They also had other ideas they wanted to make, and I think you'll like this one. They wanted to make a mini of the Sega's first jukebox, the SEGA SG-1000, but all these things got scrapped. So, would you want to have a SEGA jukebox?
I'd love it. That would be awesome. Yes.
Dude, I actually would love the jukebox more than the SG-1000. I mean, I like the way that the SG-1000 console looks, and it has a lot of history with Sega, but I don't think it's as popular as, the Master System. But
right.
The jukebox is not popular at all, but it's just a cool concept that I want a Sega jukebox, It's pretty cool. The other thing is, why did Sega Toys make this? According to them, there are two reasons. Obviously, they love arcade games, and they have unique skills at Sega Toys to make this a real project that could become an actual product. And they also said that they have the original Astro City designer that did the cabinet working with them. So that's cool.
That's interesting. And I should note, too, Sega Toys also worked on the Pico sequel, the Bina. And they also worked on the Wappy Puppy, which was that robot puppy that would connect to the Nintendo DS. So they kind of, once Sega left the home console business, Sega Toys really kind of picked up the baton and kept releasing home consoles. We just didn't really... and home hardware, we just didn't really see them as that. And so it makes sense that they're using the resources they have. I think Sega Toys also worked on the Genesis Mini.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
The old Astro City arcade cabinet designer is not the only classic Sega employee that's going to contribute to this project. It's already been confirmed that Hiro Kawaguchi, who did all the music for a lot of the AM2 games that a lot of people love, like Outrun, is going to be doing the menu music and sounds, which is cool because it kind of harkens back to the Mega Drive Mini when they had Yuzo Koshiro do the menu theme, and that was a big deal to a lot of fans. They also said that Takanobu Mitsuyoshi the guy that does Daytona USA, of course, is supposed to narrate the promo video, but we haven't seen the promo video yet, so that should be interesting when we watch. Why did they use the Astro City? Let's be honest, I think when you look at the old Japanese arcades, Astro City is like the cabinet that a lot of things come up with, like the design of it, the green buttons and all that. But they said basically, there's been Blast City, Aero City, but they said they picked it because it has Virtual Fighter as a marquee title. And everybody in Japan remembers the cabinet. That wasn't a surprise for me. But let's talk about the size, because some of these things, a lot of the drama is how mini they are. Like the micro Game Gear. A lot of people got upset at how tiny it was. So the Astro City is going to be 130 millimeters by 170 millimeters and then 160 millimeters. What all this means, I don't know. It's like 5.1 or like almost 7 inches tall, but like they said it's going to be 1/6 of the scale of the original cabinet, which seems kind of big. But I mean, is it big though? I mean, you've seen it in the pictures right here. It's just some guy holding it in his hand, and they said that that the buttons are not as scaled down because they're a little bit bigger, because obviously to play with. They're 56% of the size though of the original, so they kept,
interesting,
I guess, most of the size of it. And so yeah, hopefully it makes it more playable. And then the hardware. This arcade cabinet mini will keep the 8-way micro switch joystick. It will also have a metal joystick, screw-off ball top, meaning you could customize the ball top. And the resin used to create the cabinet is also made out of the Astro City resin. And it also has like surface designs are all replicated. And the speakers, it has speakers on it, and it has stereo output. And there are even functioning LEDs in place of the fluorescent lights that these cabinets have. And it has a built-in LCD screen, so you could play it without a TV.
Wow.
What do you think about all that they're adding into it to, I guess, replicate the idea of taking this out as an arcade?
I mean, I think it's very impressive. I know with the Genesis Mini, they did little things like the cartridge slot would open and the Sega CD add-on slot would come off. But here, it's actually like functional. Yeah. And I think that's really impressive, and it's just showing that they're going above and beyond. You mentioned, too, the Game Gear Micro. I know some people dislike it, but when you look at the thing, like, it's fully functional. Everything on there operates as a Game Gear would, which is really cool. So to see it here, my big question is, why didn't they reveal this on the 60th anniversary and reveal the Game Gear Micro later?
I have no clue. And I also wonder why they didn't do like a Sega Shiro ad for this. Like, this is 100% prime for it. Like replicating the arcade scene in an ad or something, and like having a series of online videos. They kind of stopped that, which is kind of weird. But the next bit is probably everybody's favorite, the games that are coming on here. According to the interview, there will be 36 total games, but only 10 are being announced as of today. According to the Sega Toys, they actually talked to Sega Aegis and M2 Retro Guru, Asoki Ukinari, and he kind of talked about how these picks are all based on either must-haves, surprise picks, or games that didn't have good ports in the past. They also admit that these 10 titles announced make this device look like it's just this like easy-to-port machine, you know, like we only pick titles that are easy to port. They say that's not the case, though, and I guess we'll see more hard-to-port games later. But so far, these are the games we got. Alien Storm, Alien Syndrome, Golden Axe, Revenge of Death Adder, Columns 2, Dark Edge, Tant-R, Virtual Fighter, Fantasy Zone, Altered Beast. And I guess what we know is like most of these are all 2D titles. The only 3D title we have is Virtual Fighter, and that's a Model 1 title. Revenge of Death Adder and Dark Edge are the first time coming, I guess, home. I guess if you don't count the 1-Up arcade that was announced for Death Adder. So, and what do you think about that?
I think it's interesting because it makes sense that they would pick this because they can do a much broader range of ports. You're seeing right here System 16 games, System 32 games, Model 1 games. So when you say, you know, that 10 are revealed and we have, another 26 more to go, like that really, really opens it up. We could be, you know, guessing just about anything because you look at System 16, 32, and Model 1, and that's an insane amount of games. Now, I have heard people saying, you know, oh, this must mean Outrun. I don't think Outrun's going to be on this because when you look at the control scheme, are they really going to give us Outrun with a joystick?
Yeah, that's an issue. And also, I don't think there'll be any light gun games, which were pretty popular for Sega in the mid-90s.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess that's just limited to what this is. Maybe they could do another arcade with just like a collection of like light gun games. It's just a light gun. It comes with 2 guns. That'd be. I mean, at this point, anything could happen, right?
That's true.
Outside of these titles, is there one title on here that you're like, you know, I could do without this title? I don't know why they added it.
Of these 10, I would say Columns 2 I could do without.
I think a lot of people on Twitter were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Everything
else.
If I was going to say Columns 2, but if I didn't, I would probably be Altered Beast, even though I think it actually kind of works on here because of the 2 players. But really, for sure, Tant-R, because it's just a Japanese, like, minigame thing.
Right.
And just that doesn't have that much of appeal to me here in the West. I even have the one on the Switch that they did on Sega Ages, and I played it
really?
some. Yeah, and I played it some. It's all right. I like the Bonanza Brothers tie-ins, but like it's just not enough to have its own place here when there's so many arcade games that we could be playing, like AB Cop or something that hasn't had a home port. But
I'm actually going to disagree with you there because I got into the puzzle and action games on the Mega Drive Mini, and I was like, where was this game all my life? It's so much fun because they keep throwing mini games at you. It's like the Sega equivalent of WarioWare.
That is true. That's what it is. But, I mean, maybe we disagree on this. Wow, we disagree on an episode. Comment below who's right. Let's talk about the outputs on this,
yes.
right? So, we got a good look in the back, and if you're watching the video, you are, so YouTube. It basically shows you that this will have an HDMI output, which means you could put it on a TV. They will also have 2 USB out, and according to the interview, there will be a Astro City mini arcade sticks and pads. We actually got the leaked pads, and they look exactly like an Astro City like design, but they're basically Mega Drive, kind of like 6-button layout, the way you usually think. And they're how much?
$25 converted from 2,780 yen.
Yeah. So, pretty affordable. This doesn't support Bluetooth. It also has a micro USB out, which I'm assuming is for charging, and a power out, like an old school power, and a switch so you could turn it on and off. Outside of that, it's going to support save states. And they also talked about kind of how you could play. Like, one person can be playing on the joystick and then another person playing on the controller, or 2 people could be playing on the controller. But we got some bad news. According to the interview, there 3 or 4 player games like Revenge of Death Adder will be limited to 2 players, which is pretty bad though, because I just wish that like they just supported Bluetooth and allowed you to connect 4 controllers and just do it. I mean, if you're already going to go this far, why not, right?
Yeah.
So and I guess we could end it with the price, because I mean, how does this compare to other ones? Well, it's the most expensive mini that Sega has released so far. With all these features, it's gonna cost 12,800 yen, which is about $119 USD. For reference, the Sega Genesis Mini was $80 on launch, and the Game Gear Mini will be around $40 on launch. So how do you think this compares in price compared to those? I do know that the Game Gear Mini is only going to have 4 ROMs, and this has 36, which is quite a bit. And also, I feel like a lot of people put more value on arcade ROMs than they do like Game Gear or, console stuff.
Right. I think just based on what we're seeing with the build quality and with the built-in screen and all the extra features, it seems to be well worth the price in my opinion. Also, you're getting some first-time home ports. Now, I know we did do a SEGA News Bits in the past talking about the arcade 1-up machine for Revenge of Death Adder, but that thing's probably going to be $350 to $400 and huge. Take up a whole corner of your house. Yeah, exactly. Whereas this one, for all we know, we might get every single game that's going to be on that thing in this package. And I'm wondering if Arcade 1-Up is thinking, oh, I hope they don't import this into the Americas. Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking it would be interesting if they did like a contract, like if Sega doesn't want to bring it over, maybe do a contract with 1-Up where they distribute it for them in their store.
Right.
I mean, they already have an arcade presence in America, and they even have like, I've seen their arcades, I think, one time at Walmart. So they have some, connections with big stores. I mean, not that Sega can do it themselves, but you know how they are.
Right.
What game that hasn't been announced in arcade would you want to see on here, even if it's just what you like? It's not like, anything. It's been, nothing unique, I guess.
Well, you know what? As we were talking here, I pulled up the Sega Retro page for Model 1 games. There aren't that many. I don't think they would put Star Wars Arcade on here, but what I am seeing is a game that I've maybe heard of before but never actually seen or played. It's Wing War. And I think that looks really cool. And I'd like to see more, games that never saw releases. It says here it was going to have a 32X port planned, but never happened. So bring us Wing War. I mean, why not?
There's also, like, I was gonna say AB Cobb, because that has a weird history with Sega. Like, the developer that did it was bought by Sammy in '96, who bought Sega, but then they sold them to SNK. It's just a weird little title. I don't think it's the coolest title, but I just think they should go on with this, like, you never played it at your house motif. They got 2 titles here that are pretty good.
Totally.
But you think they're gonna stick with a lot of Sega Ages stuff? Like, we already got a Fantasy Zone port, so, like, it's kind of, and Columns 2 on Switch. Are you surprised that they added those?
No, I'm not, and I think you're right. I think we will be seeing a lot of the Sega Ages titles kind of double dipped here, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's releasing them outside of the Switch. It's putting them more into a Astro City, setting. Yeah, and removing all of the other, like Genesis ports and things like that. I'm really excited for this. I think I'm more excited for this than the Genesis Mini, because I can't own these like I can, just buying a cart and load it up with ROMs. So it's very exciting. My question is, are we all going to be importing this? I don't see Sega of America jumping on bringing this over here.
Same thing here. Like, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Like, right when I started getting into Sega on the internet and started seeing Japanese things, I fell in love with the Astro City arcade, and I always wanted one. I don't have one, obviously. They're so big, and then the maintenance and all that. Right when I saw it last night, I was like, oh man, I want this so bad. When I saw it was 120 and all the features, 100% I wanted it. And I was thinking the same thing you're thinking. Are they going to bring it over? And my thoughts are probably not. Maybe they'll have somebody else distribute it, like I said, One-Up, but I doubt it. So I could see myself just importing it from Japan, and I hope they have an English option like they did in the Mega Drive Mini.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the Astro City Mini arcade cabinet that Sega's going to be pushing out there. What games do you guys want to see? They have 26 more to announce, so try to be creative in the comments. Tell us what you think about this device. Are you going to buy it? Let us know. Like the video, share. Goodbye.
Later.
All right.
Game over, gamers.
Game over.